talk some New Orleans Saints, boys. First, how much of the game did you watch live? I did not watch a ton live. I ended up kind of catching up on it a bit yesterday, watching highlights, things I found interesting. Did anybody sit down and watch
the first
thing?
quarter live.
Okay, yeah. Okay, there we go.
And then went back and was looking for certain things as I kind of went through it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mari, what about you? You and Danny being the resident Who-Dats in here. How much did y'all dive into the game this weekend?
Honestly,
you had a party, obviously.
Honestly, same as y'all. I thought there were some decent individual performances. Some guys that need to bounce back in the next preseason game, and very preseason-y.
That's
very preseason.
Yeah. It definitely was very preseason.
Very preseason.
Very fair to say.
Yeah, the Texans make it feel even more preseason-y, I think.
So what's funny is, obviously, when we're watching the broadcast, we're getting Joel Myers, and he's awesome, and he understands it's a preseason game. Did anybody have a chance when you were watching highlights or anything to listen to the Texans broadcast?
No,
because that's the one that ended up making it on the on like the NFL YouTube channel. And this guy.
Oh, I watched it on PFF.
So you were watching the actual film?
Yeah.
Okay, so you.
I thought that's what you meant.
No. I'm talking. So you've dug deep. Then you've done actual film work here. I always forget that we can watch everything through PFF now. Okay, even better then. But no, the Texans announcer, dude, you would have thought it was a regular season game. And I get it. I mean, how do you approach it? You're supposed to be excited, right? But, like, it was like Joe Tessitore times 2, but for the entirety of the game. I mean, every single – when they scored at the end, you've never heard someone more happy for a preseason dub than this guy's Texans taking it home.
He's getting his reps in.
Either way, that's not what we're here to talk about. Daniel, you watched none of it because you were fresh off Italy. You got an ACL Milan jersey. All you care about is football.
Well, no, actually, I did watch it.
Oh, okay. What'd you think?
I think Ian Book was very disappointing.
Yeah, that seems to be the big takeaway.
So he took 5 sacks.
Okay. Look, here's my deal with Ian Book. If Ian Book is playing, the season is already over. I get that he's an interesting piece to watch because you always want to see how a young quarterback does, right? Because what if they do really good, right? Then that becomes just like incredibly exciting prospect where you feel like you have a guy in the pipeline. This might be more like a Ryan Griffin, right? Or Garrett Griffin, well, whichever one Griffin you want to use there. But Ian Book struggled. But the much bigger takeaway should be the play of the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton, dude. Out there going 5 of 5, perfect textbook clinic tape screen pass, which is not really on Dalton, though. When you talk about where Jameis Winston has struggled, that's something that they've been talking about constantly, is that he has to increase his accuracy in the short game. You saw the value there, right? No Sean Payton, the Saints screen game remains as beautiful as ever. The block by Pete McCoy on that screen were just, makes me so happy. Anyway, the bigger takeaway should be how good Andy Dalton looked, not because there should be any quarterback controversy, I'm not there, but simply because it shows you what an incredible insurance policy you have. Like, the disparity between Dalton and Book doubles down on the value of having Andy Dalton on this roster.
After what you went through last year, certainly you're going to appreciate having a backup that you have confidence in, that if he goes in there, he's got just a number of starts, obviously, was a guy for a long time, has made Pro Bowls and done all those things. One time was the highest paid quarterback in the league, right? Now, Andy Dalton's not the savior by any means.
Andy Dalton was the highest paid quarterback in the league?
Yeah, for a quick minute he was.
Damn,
yes.
Work out, AD.
But, you now have somebody that you know he's not going to be who you had to go through last year. And I'm not trying to throw shade at Trevor Siemian and those guys. I mean, Trevor Siemian had okay moments, but you're not going to start Ian Book. You're not going to start even Taysom, right? You have Andy Dalton that can come in there, and it gives you confidence that you do have a backup. Jameis has had a couple of injuries in his NFL career, so you have a solid backup that you can count on. You kind of know what to expect as well.
Some validation for the Cannon and his Andy Dalton hype. I thought there, Mario, you had to love to see Marquez Callaway with the big 3rd and 5 slant there, making it look easy, looking like a vet.
Tre'Quan Smith dropping a touchdown pass, but hey, he can block.
Okay,
1 for 19, and we're gonna celebrate.
Chill out, not drop. That was a good play by. Actually, that was one of the funniest parts of the game. The player that broke up the Tre'Quan Smith pass was Tremon Smith. How about that?
Smith on Smith crime.
No, not even Smith. It gets you Tre'Quan. It's literally syllabically the same. We're talking about like only one letter really different. So I thought that was kind of funny. But no, I don't think that was a drop. You could have maybe you could have made a great play, but I give credit to the defense there. And Dalton Shine, hey, and he even had a nice little scramble on 2nd and 7, dude, where he showed off some wheels. So the point of this is, the Saints have one of those rosters where it's almost like a roster where you say, okay, if you get above average quarterback play, you'll get 10 wins. The thing is, it seems like you have 2 guys that can maybe hit that above average quarterback play bar, which makes you so much more resilient from an injury standpoint to where, yeah, if Jamie Winston does get hurt and you have to go to Ian Book, then the season's completely over at that point. And despite the fact that you have the Honey Badger and Jarvis Landry and Demario Davis and Marcus Davenport and Cam Jordan, you have all this talent, and it would be wasted. So Dalton is the big takeaway to me.
All right, so if we're going like the other way, if we want to talk about things that I'm still pretty worried about. Now, I know you have backs that did not play in this game, but we're talking about who's going to be behind AK, because Mark Ingram still has something, I think, left, but he's an aging running back, and for that position, he's probably 3 years over what normally you get out of any running back.
30 is, you know better than I do, I think, Jake, but 30 is supposed to be it's when like the Grim Reaper starts knocking on your locker. And
even the best of the best at that position. So the fact that he's still playing at that level is pretty impressive, but you're looking for somebody else. You're looking for somebody to step up. And overall, the team ran for 3.5 yards per carry. You take the quarterback runs out of the equation, the team ran for 3.1 yards per carry. Like, no running back really separated himself. Smith, 7 for 30. Okay, he had the best day. He was the only one that averaged over 4 yards a carry. Jones didn't have any big runs. Washington, 9 carries, 19 yards. So there wasn't a separator. And in that first preseason game, that's typically when you can run the ball the best. Because the offensive line's a little bit ahead of the defensive line, and the running backs are a little bit ahead of the linebackers because the linebackers haven't been tackling to the ground. Yeah. So you have a little bit of a head start on them as far as where you're at in camp. So that was disappointing, and it's still a major concern for me because you look across the other side. Now, this is a drafted guy, but Pierce had 5 for 50 on the other side. Yeah. That's typically what you see from your first preseason game. One of the backs had a big day. The Saints didn't have that.
Yeah, and then wasn't it Smith who had the fumble on the goal line as well a bit later on? Good learning lesson for the rookie there early on. So, no, I think that Smith, Jones, and Zigbo Washington group, they didn't, like you said, no one separated, and they combined on 31 carries for 102 yards, 3.2. So nothing special. I know that you've got, like we mentioned, the 2 backs, and you've got another veteran back that didn't really get any run here, but still, like, you want a young running back from that group to step up. Like Jones last year, he was the guy we talked about in the preseason. It didn't translate to the regular season. Smith is one of the better undrafted free agent rookies in all the NFL, so you were hoping maybe he could go out there and have, 8 carries for 50 yards or whatever it was, but you just didn't see that. And they played their offensive line, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Saints played their guys. Yeah, it's like I said, go look at the screen pass touchdown. That's Andrews Pete and Eric McCoy leading the way. Hurst got the start at left tackle. As far as other people that performed very well, I thought Paulson Adebo continues to prove he's going to be a dog. At TFL early on was a thing of beauty. Chase Hansen had a hell of a day. I don't know what Chase Hansen's role is on this team eventually, but multiple TFLs, had the pick. You are given the stage with which to put your best foot forward, and Chase Hansen did exactly that. Jake, how closely did you get to watch Trevor Penning when he was in there?
I was paying attention to him, for sure, because of all the conversations we've had.
So what
I thought he had a nice day. Yeah. There's still some things he's got to figure out. You can tell that there's a different speed to it, but I thought he played really well. Look, we all know the Pro Football Focus grade. He graded out as the highest. Yeah, he got like a 90, and that's with giving up a sack, a direct sack. He's still graded out as a 90 according to PFF, which impressive for whatever it's worth. Yeah, I thought in the run game, I thought he did some nice things. There's still some things he's got to figure out as far as pad level, footwork, certainly. And you could tell, like, the speed of it. He was trying to figure it out. And I thought he did throughout the game. But that's somebody that I can see. He might not be the starter in, week 1, but much like Armstead was, I can see him later on in that rookie year taking over that job and being ready to roll. Yeah, I thought, and it's funny because he looks gigantic, but he does have that almost Will Campbell-esque youthful gigantism
That's not a word, but you get what I'm saying.
Hate it, though.
He still looks a little young, still a little. I really hesitate to use the word soft because it's a relative softness. Like he is harder than any of us, anybody in like everyday life. But what I mean is, you can tell that even on this giant frame, there is still more physical development that can take place, and he can be physically one of the scariest looking tackles in the league. And you see that nastiness show up in his run blocking. Like he is finishing dudes. He's going till the whistle every single time. Again, like Jake said, like even the sack that he gave up, he needs work. Like in the sack that and if you read Saints camp reports, Granderson's kind of been giving him the business. And, he's a multi-year pass rushing vet. But like even in the sack he gave up, it was no great move that got him. It was just like a simple up and under his footwork just kind of betrayed him a little bit. But still, as Jake said, PFF giving him a 90 grade overall, highest of all rookies. And even if you don't care about, it's not that it's a 90, 100%. Sure, maybe there are a few percentage points here or there off, but he played well. He had a good game. Other thoughts on the game? Shout out Jeff Driscoll still being in the NFL.
Yeah.
He threw
it to the Saints multiple times, but yeah. I was like, oh, yeah, Jeff Driscoll.
Jeff Driscoll.
Go Dogs.
I know he got burned a couple times, but Brian Allen had a pretty interesting week, playing in the USFL, the Birmingham Stallions, signed the Saints earlier this week, then goes and gets a pick in an NFL preseason game. Look, outside of that, I thought it was solid. I think the main takeaway for me again was that the Dalton hype out of camp looked pretty justified, and that first group looked really dangerous with him, and that's mainly what I care about.
It's the first preseason game.
Yeah.
If we're pointing out disappointments, obviously just know that it is the first preseason game. But that was my one big takeaway. No running back really separated themselves. There was times when they didn't read it the way it was blocked, and you want to see a young running back on this team make a move to be able to give you some other options, because you're still uncertain, as far as suspension with AK, although the Watson situation, we think maybe it's going to be less than what we initially thought. Mark Ingram, just in his age, not to say that he can't do it, but you want to have something else behind him, and you're hoping one of those backs, because I do think there's talent in that room. I think there's guys that are capable of doing it, but you'd like to see one of those guys step up here in this preseason.
Yeah, and I'm excited to go back and watch some. I want to watch Cesar Ruiz a bit more closely. That was a blind spot that I think there's probably some value that could be gained, so I'll definitely check back in on that.